Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the PFP Regional Peat Workshop. We are doing workshop 2 today. And we can see there's maybe a couple people who might still join. So we'll just give it a couple minutes, but thank you so much for joining us today. If you've come to our previous workshop before, you'll know it's quite different from our symposium. It's a lot more chill and relaxed, and it's kind of more conversational. So yeah, just sit back and relax and kind of enjoy the conversation, and feel free to be part of the conversation as well, either through the chat box or if you want to actually speak up, we welcome that as well. So yeah, we'll be just starting in a moment or two. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, and just to let you guys know as well, we'll be going live on Facebook. So if you have any friends or colleagues that you think will benefit from this presentation and from this workshop today, feel free to share that with them or share the link that you have as well. That'll be great. But anyway, since it's already 3:01, I wanted to just start off by introducing myself. You might know me from previous symposiums if you've attended, which I mean, some of the names in our room today sound quite familiar. So welcome back. Thank you for joining us again today. So I am Mariam Ghani, and I'm the Stakeholder Engagement and Communications Manager at Tropical Rainforest Conservation and Research Center. And we are an environmental NGO, and we are based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And we're also part of People for Peat, or EU SUPA Component 2. So just some quick guidelines. Again, like I mentioned, this is a workshop, so it's a lot more interactive, a lot more chill, but the same rules kind of still apply to change your name on Zoom so that you have your name followed by your organization, so we know where you're from if you are coming from an organization. And throughout, while either I or Agil is presenting, just keep your microphones off. But if you do wish to contribute, just put your hand up or raise your hand using the raise hand function, and we'll be happy to let you speak. And then, of course, in PFP style, there's always the chat box. We've got our team, Irene, always on the chat box, looking out for your questions, looking out for your comments. So feel free to keep, plugging away in that chat box. And lastly, so this is where it's a bit different from our symposiums, we try and make this as interactive and as conversational as possible. So feel free to discuss things openly, and there'll also be some kind of like quizzes and ways for you to interact. So do participate, be an active participant in today's event, and it'll make it all much more better. So, all right. So before we get any further, I wanted to run a quick poll. So I'm going to do that because we always love to know where everyone's coming from. That gives us an idea of who our audience is. So I'll just launch that right now. Where are you from? Where are you joining us from? So as you know, I'm from Malaysia. Our speaker today, very exciting, is from Indonesia. So where else is everyone coming from? Perfect. So we have one more person to answer. Okay, everyone's answered. Great. So already we're getting some good interaction. I love it. That's awesome. So to share these results, we've got 2 people from Indonesia. We've got 1 person from Myanmar. I think I can guess based on your name. And then also 3 folks from the Philippines. So welcome to everyone. Selamat datang, mabuhay, and in Burmese, Mingalaba. So welcome to everyone. I hope I got that right. So I'm going to stop sharing now and go on to our next slide. So I'm just, as usual, going to give you an introduction to People for Peat, what we're about, and this is all said in this short video, so enjoy. There's no sound for the video. Just give us a moment there.
Prevention activities with real action in the ground, together with the local peoples and supported by government and the corporation, and it will be one of the best solutions.
hope for the Asian peatlands is that there will be more awareness amongst the general public, amongst the government, amongst the private parties about the very important role peatlands play in regulating the climate, in maintaining biodiversity, and in providing an income for local and regional communities.
So to maintain peatland ecosystem, it is essential to build capacity of local communities, especially in restoration and wise use of peat forest.
In the future, we hope to see more businesses on peatlands to operate sustainably.
Let's help protect our peat forest together, because we need to set a better future for our children.
Awesome. So I hope you enjoyed that quick video. So just to kind of recap what People for Peat is all about and why we're running this program is that we are part of the EU SUPA program, and SUPA stands for the Sustainable Use of Peatlands and Haze Mitigation in ASEAN. And there are two components to this action. One is component 1 that works with state actors, and that is run by GIZ. And then component 2, which focuses on non-state actors, is run by People for Peat, or EU SUPA component 2. And that's who we are, and that's what we've been doing for the last 2.5 years. And collectively, our goal is to reduce fires and haze in the ASEAN region. So our members include, obviously, Tropical Rainforest Conservation and Research Center, and we are primarily an environmental NGO working in tropical rainforest conservation, particularly about rainforest and reforestation projects throughout the country. And then we have our partners. So we have World Resources Indonesia, World Resources Institute Indonesia, and they primarily focus on research, especially to do with the climate, the environment, and human activity. So that's who our partners are. And then we also have the Yayasan Initiative Dagang Hijau, which stands for the Sustainable Trade Initiative in English. And they work a lot with financiers, CSOs, and small companies to try and give them more options for funding and to further sort of sustainability actions. So we're in good company. And so one of the challenges that we are trying to address is in ASEAN, there's definitely a lack of reliable data and information about peatlands and how important they are to the region, but also globally. And then secondly, we are also hoping to streamline and mainstream actually some of the sustainable business solutions that we have already operating on peatland. So we've done that with currently our cohort members. So yeah, stay tuned for stuff about the business hub that you can see on our social media links as well. So we just had actually a business hub summit where our cohort members got to pitch to green investors and hopefully get some funding for their sustainable business. And then lastly, we have, the challenge is really the lack of awareness and capacity about peatlands in the region. So that's what we're trying to address through stuff like this workshop today. So thank you so much for attending. And hopefully you can get some tangible skills from today to help you yourself increase the awareness and capacity in your communities. So far, like I mentioned, we've done quite a lot over the past couple of years. So with data and information, we have had a bunch of different research call for proposals. And so we've got people working on different peatland research in a bunch of different countries. So we're working in 8 countries, right? Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and the Philippines. Did I miss one? Might have missed one. But yeah. And then for business and investment, like I mentioned, we've been doing this accelerator program with all these small businesses. And then for pillar 3, which is outreach and advocacy, we've been doing events like this. And we also have been running a Peatland Ranger training program. And that is where we get people from within the community who are really already involved in the community on peatlands. And we provide training and capacity building to specifically focus on things like water management, fire management, and sustainable livelihoods. And from there, they go on to share that knowledge with their community. So it's like a multiplying effect. So those are some of the ways that we've been doing it for our action. So these are just some of the different activities that we've done. A lot of it on Zoom, as you can tell, but we've also managed to physically go out into the field, especially in the last year, to meet with our stakeholders and really get things moving on the ground. So that's been really quite wonderful. Okay, so I have another poll for you guys, which is, I just want to know what inspired you to attend today's workshop. So, we focus a lot on, for today's workshop, is about the role of youth. And this one is specifically on how to engage youth in a digital space. So yeah, I wanted to know why you guys are attending. And if we didn't capture your answer, feel free to write it in the chat box. Again, today is really just chill and all about interaction. So I won't close the poll till everyone answers. All right. I'll give you guys a little bit more time. But yeah, I mean, for me, a big part of our job at People for Peat is to engage not just youth, but everyone in the community, right? In all areas of the community. So that's why we do what we do. And that's why we talk to people like our next speaker. So, all right, I'm just going to end the poll right now and share our results. So 33% of you said that you wanted to learn more about youth engagement. So excellent, you're in the right place. And then 67% of you said that you want to learn more about peatlands and youth and how they kind of tie together. So I think this presentation then is perfect for you. We have a really, really excellent speaker who has expertise in both of those things. So great. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I think our slides just stopped. Okay. Just give us a moment there. All right. And so the next poll that we're running is just to find out what is your role on peatlands. What are you currently doing? Are you a researcher? Are you a landowner? You work there, you live there, or you're just generally interested to know about peatlands and how to engage with youth on peatlands or about peatlands? So for example, for me, I work with peatlands, not necessarily on them. I do visit them sometimes. Anyone here living on peatlands or close to peatlands? Yeah. All right. I'll just end the poll here. So we've got quite a few people who are researchers. So that's really interesting. I'm happy to hear that, because I think one of the challenges that we face is that when you have research out there, but it's quite difficult sometimes to translate that research into action or into something that the general public will read, right? Because not a lot of people are going to go into a research paper and read it, right? So how do we make that kind of information more accessible to people, especially youth, who are a really key audience for actions like this? And then the other 40% of you answered that you are not working on peatlands, but you're interested to learn more. So excellent. Okay, great. So moving on. So our agenda for today, like I've already done the introduction of People for Peat. And next up, we have none other than Agiel Prakoso, who will be talking about the role of youth in peatland awareness and haze mitigation, but specifically about how to engage youth in a digital space, especially when it comes to environmental activism and specifically on peatland. So it's quite a niche topic that is perfect for our audience and perfect for People for Peat, because that's what we do as well. So, and then after that, we have a quick, not really a quick, but again, the whole point of this workshop is for interactions to happen, right? So we are trying to facilitate conversations And so after Agil's presentation, we will have a question and answer, but more of a discussion, really, not so much even a question and answer. Let's just chat. Okay. And so next up, I'm very excited to share with you who our speaker is. So finally, I've been kind of saying his name, but basically Agil Prakoso is a research manager for Pantau Gambut, which is an Indonesian-based NGO that's focusing on peatland conservation. And he is actually a full-time forester and environmentalist. And he manages and implements the investigation portfolio related to peatland protection and management in Indonesia. So his interest in sustainability issues has initiated him into various local and international activities since his sophomore year in university. So he's been, I think, since his being a youth and also working with youth, he's in a perfect position. So in June 2022, he was one of the young professional delegates to speak during the forum at the Second Asia Pacific Congress in Sabah, Malaysia. And that was to spread awareness of the peatland ecosystem. He's also a TEDx Jakarta speaker. So during the TEDx countdown in January 2022, he was one of the speakers. And he's also spoken at COP Glasgow on the topic of scaling up justice and social equity in the design of fire-free peatland governance. So a lot of very relevant experience. And so he's going to join us today to share about his experience engaging with youth in a digital space. And he hopes to share some practical tips and knowledge with you about how you can do that for your own organization and your own causes. And if you are not familiar with Pantau Gambut, people for Peat on our side, you obviously all kind of follow us on social media, but we take a lot of inspiration from the work that Pantau Gambut does in activism in a digital space. Because if you take a look at their Instagram, they have some really, really amazing content. And so that's why we really wanted to invite Agil from Pantau Gambut to speak today about how to best do that. And so hopefully by the end of this workshop, you will all have some tangible skills on how to do that for yourselves. So without further ado, I would like to present Agil.
Okay, thank you, MG, for the introductions. Hi, everyone. Like MG said, my name is Agil Prakoso. You can call me Agil. I am a research manager in Pantau Gambut, or if you're not familiar with what is Pantau Gambut, in English, it is Peat Watch. So yes, my day-to-day activity, we as an Indonesian NGO, we try to monitor the progress of the peatland restorations and all of the peatland protection activity by the related stakeholder within peatland ecosystem. So yeah, as MG said that today we would like to have like non-formal workshop, just like the interactive one, more chill. So I hope that all of you can contribute to sharing your ideas, inspiration, or maybe insight, opinion during the workshop. Well, great. Okay, do you guys see my screen?
Yeah, Agil, looks good.
Okay. Wait, I'm sorry. I think there's a technical glitch. Oh, all is good. So it's in full screen right now, right?
No, actually, we're looking currently at a document.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Okay. Is it already in full screen or no?
Not yet.
Okay. How about this one?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the glitch. Okay. So today, as MG said, that as Pantau Gambut day-to-day activity, we try to give more digestible content, especially our target is also youth. So we always trying to make any kind of content related to Peatland to be more easy to be understood by public, especially for the youth also. But before that, before we starting about how is Pantau Gambut activity using the digital space to spread awareness about the Peatland, I would like to ask the audience about the first opinion from you guys. What is the first thing that coming up into your mind about youth itself? I think we can make like a whiteboard soon to share your ideas. So all of you can give like the simple descriptions about youth. What is the first thing that's coming to your mind about youth? Well, yes, thank you, Irene, for the whiteboard. So everyone can type any kind of idea about youth. You can change also the color. For those who are using the touchscreen devices, you can directly write the word. Okay, fun, future, yes, powerful, motivated. Okay, nice. Yes. Anything more? Energetic. Okay. Fun. Funny. Okay. Enough. Okay. Thanks, Irene, for the whiteboard. Yes. All of the descriptions that you've wrote in at the whiteboard is really true about what is youth. Youth is well known as their unique characters. They are energetic, they are fun, they're trying to share their inspirations publicly, they are brave, and they're there to speak spontaneously in public. But do you know what is the range of age of youth based on the classifications of the UN or another type of the young professional that categorized by UN? You can answer these questions by the polling in the Zoom. The first one is, who is categorized as youth? Okay. Okay. People with, okay. I think we need one more participant. No. All right. So 57% of the participant answer the right answer. So yes, youth is people aged between 15 until 24. But actually, there is another terminology of the young people classified by the UN. The next pool, please. So do you know who is categorized as the young professional? Okay. Yeah. I think all these participants are really smart because because the answer is right. The young professional is people who in the age between 25 and sorry, not right, sorry, but based on the UN, I will explain you later in the presentation. So based on the UN has classified you for the statistical purposes. Youth is classified as the persons who age between 15 until 24. So your question, your answer is right for the first pool, but and then the UN also has classified another classifications for young people that has a concern to the issues related to sustainable development. And then but they also they also do the professional job. So UN classified the young professional age between 15 until 34. And then based on the data from the UN, there are 1.2 billion of young people with the range of the age of 15 to 24 years old. And then the distribution is about 16% of the global populations. And then as you write on the whiteboard before, because youth characteristic is really unique, the youth role in the environmental issue is really important and it's really needed because their energy, their unique ideas, and also the perspective is really important to counter issues and also tackle the challenges. And then I think I have a one sentence. It maybe sounds a bit cliche for you because you've been heard about this over and over again, and it's been a long time. It's been like the common sentence that's always been spoken by another speaker when talking about the youth. The sentence is, youth is the next generations that will live on the earth, and all the decisions that has been made by the current generations will be impacted to the youth in the future. I think it's a bit cliche, but it's really true because what happened right now is influencing the youth in the future. But I want to highlight that the important point is, even though the future will be the decision will give the impact in the future, but as youth, we don't need to wait until we are a CEO of multinational, until we are a politicians or a person who can have a decision, who can make a decision, especially about the environmental sector, to take a role to protect the environment. We as the youth, we also can do as a youth for protecting our environment itself. But then the question is why? And then the question is how to do that, how to give the real actions by the youth to protect the environment, and also for this topic maybe to protect the pit itself. But before that, it is also important to know, to spread the awareness that why youth must be aware about the peatland issues. It is because, as we already know, that peatland is a unique ecosystem, right? It stores a lot. It's kind of play media. So I'm sorry. Is media play in your screen or not?
Not yet, Agil.
Oh, it's okay. I will skip to the next one. So why it is important for you to know about the peatland issues? Because the real conditions of peatlands, that the unique ecosystem one, is not in the good conditions right now, because of the human activity, the land conversions, the industrial extractive plantations that is currently planted on the peatland ecosystem, is really threaten the peatland ecosystem itself. And because of this activity, it led to a big disaster in the Haze. And one of the example of the Haze is the forest and land. Forest and the land fire that ever happened in Indonesia in 2015, and it gave a huge impact of the multi-sectoral sector. So sorry, because of my animation is not run well. I think for the questions, oh no, it's okay, sorry. So the next questions, I would like to know if you are the persons who working on peatland, you have already know that there are a lot of activities within the peatland ecosystem that led to the drainage activity that makes the peatland susceptible to fire. So do you know how much ton of carbon that released from the draining hectares of peatland areas that's become a peatland ecosystems getting degraded? So the result of these questions will be, I think you'll be surprised because, yeah, we need to wait. Okay, two more participants. Okay, I think it's enough. So from the drainage activity in a hectare of peatland area is similar to burning more than 6,000 gallons of the gas. It is only from the drainage activity. Just imagine after the ecosystem has been drained and it's not wet again. So it is susceptible to fire. And the fire also produced the GHG material, the greenhouse gases material. It's more than the carbon dioxide. So you can imagine the first emissions is come from the drainage activity, and the next one come from the forest and land fire that produce a lot of GHG gases. And then, yeah, as I mentioned before, that the impact of the forest and fire, it's give a multi-sectoral impact. And also Indonesia in 2050 is well known as the country that import the haze to our neighborhood country like Singapore and Malaysia. And it's really one of the worst haze that ever happened in Indonesia after 1997. So this is really important to be known by public, especially also by the youth. So the youth also can consider that the impact of the forest and the land fire is because of the degradations of the peatland ecosystem itself. So that's why it become important. And then the next question is how the real contribution of the youth to protect the peatland ecosystem, to mitigate the haze. Is it really true that youth can take a role for this protections activity? Is it true that youth have a power to deliver the ideas, so the ideas can be considered to the decision maker, for example? Please give your insight into the whiteboard. How the real contribution that youth can do for protecting the peatland and mitigate the haze. Using social media, it's simple. Using social media, yeah. Sharing to friends is also good. What is another? The simplest one. I think we don't need to be like the expert. We don't need to be the CEO, the head of the NGO, international NGO, or part of the UN members, staff. Yeah, speaking to friends and family, take a photo. Yes, great. Shutting out on social media, perfect. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Irene, for the whiteboard. Yes, all the answer, all your answer on whiteboard is right, is true. The simple thing of the contribution that you can do is by just telling to your friends that how important is peatland, how it's really important from the degradations of the peatland into the forest and then fire. And then it is also has been written in the whiteboard, but I would like to ask to you from the pool. You can answer in the Zoom pool. What is the easiest way to contribute in the peatland awareness and haze mitigation as a youth? I think I found the answer from the whiteboard, but you can also choose one of this pool. Just imagine you are as a youth that have no power, you are only have something. What is the thing that the easiest way for you to contribute to peatland awareness and the haze mitigations? Oh, okay. we need to wait more answer. Okay. Okay, so there is the same percentage, the using of the technology, utilizing the technology and on-ground work. Well, actually, three of the choices from this pool are right, but we can just imagine what is the simple, what is the easiest things, and the answer is the using the technology. I will explain it later. So at least there are three ways that you can contribute to spread the peatland awareness and also to mitigate the haze that happen from the peatland degradations. So the first one is the public advocacy. Yeah, you know that youth is well known for sharing their ideas in the public, for doing the long march, for example. So yeah, the public advocacy is the common activity that is conducted by the youth organization or youth group. And the second one, the contribution of youth can be done by joining the network and coalition. So you can join student groups or student organizations that has a concern into the peatland ecosystem, and then you can have like discussions between the members and then spread also the awareness to the new member, and even you can join into the part of the NGO or INGO. So you can do the real activity by the activity by the NGO, for example, like project activity in the field in the peatland area. And the most easiest or the easiest ways that I mentioned before is the technology utilizations.
Sorry, Gil, your slides are not on at the moment.
Oh, is it? Sorry. Is it working now or no?
Not yet. You're not sharing screen yet.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, there are three ways, like I mentioned before. So there is a public advocacy, and then the second one, the network and coalitions. You can join like the organizations, student organizations, or maybe you even can join the NGO's member to implement the activity that has been planned by the NGO itself. But the easiest way is the technology utilization. So you can use your mobile phone, your device, your iPad, your computer to spread awareness, to build an awareness in haze mitigation. So you don't need to be the part of the coalition. Three of these ways is important, but I choose one that is really easy for you. There's no need you to be the expert of the youth. You don't need to be like the environmental student, or you don't need to be a member of the environmental organization. You just use your technology. You just use your device to spread the peatland awareness and also to mitigate the haze from the degradations. So here I would like to share our experience from Pantau Gambut or Peat Watch. So before that, Pantau Gambut is a coalition of the 23 local NGOs across Indonesia, across 10 provinces in Indonesia. So our theory of change, we try to enable and empower cloud-based independent monitoring. So all the information, monitoring information from the community, especially, but also we try to promote the sustainable peatland management. So to reduce the carbon emission from the peat and deforestation. So we utilize the technology by presenting our finding and also our output into our public platform. And we also utilize our coalition to support all informations and data. And we also gain the data from the government, from the reliable sources, from maybe from the university or the research. And then the digital space that Pantau Gambut has been using is the first one is the website. So we have the website that, wait, I will click. So our website.
Sorry, Agil, your slides disappeared.
Sorry.
Okay.
So our website is showing all of the information about what is peatland. So we have a peat 101, and also we have a story that is always updated the current news, about the opinion, and about the story that people living on Peatland. And we also have the map to give an overview where's the distributions of the community. And then we also have the pledge monitoring, like the promise from the related stockholder to protect the peatland. And we also the publication. So all the output material that Pantau Gambut that has been done, we are using the website. And then the second one, wait, I need to change my screen again. And the second one, we have the simple website. We have a microsite. So this microsite is most likely a summary of the specific issues that we want to give to the public. So the public will easy to understand what is the current issues that want to be discussed, for example. So one example, we have the microsite that focus talking about a food estate. So in this microsite, we use like the simple animations and illustrations, so you can just easily write with the attractive content. For example, but this is also this also contain like the reliable data and also analysis. So we also recap all the media based on the Tier 1 media tracking, and also we try to always update all the informations about regarding these issues in this microsite. So the difference between the microsite and the website, in the microsite, we try to make all the contents simpler, and then also easy to be understood by, especially for the layman. And the last one, we also utilize the social media. We have the Instagram and also Twitter. Our Instagram, like MG said before, we try to use the illustrative content. We try to produce all information that can be easy digested by the public, especially also for the youth, because we use illustrative content like the cartoon one. So you might be interested if you see the illustration, but you also can get the informations and also the insight from this illustrative. So you can see there are almost, not almost, but all of our content is illustration. So we try to pack the data, the informations about the peatland issues, about the research, or even about the education on peatland. We try to pack it into the illustration, the illustration that is easy for you to understand. Wait. And then, like MD said before, the challenge that we are facing as the peatlands folks, or peatland, or people who are talking in peatland. Peatland issues, peatland terminology is really hard to be understood, especially for the layman. It is unfamiliar. The terminology is not easy to be understood. So we need to think what is the easiest way. We need to think also what is the efficient way, so the public can understand the important informations about peatland, but they also can interest to learn deep about the issues on peatland itself. So, you know, in peatland terminology, there is a pyrite extradition, soil subsidence, groundwater level, homogeneous water repellent, that is really unfamiliar with all laymen. For example, for you, that is really the new kid on the block, the new kid on the peatland itself. So that's why we use illustration into to our social media platform, to our Instagram. So one of the extensive output from Pantau Gambut using the digital space is the illustrative content in our Instagram. So we are trying to give information, for example, like this. We try to give the warning to the public, to our follower, that we are currently have the two two threat of the COVID-19 and also the forest and then fire, especially on peatland. And the left one is about we try to give information to them that there is one of way for weather modifications that is currently happening in Indonesia, and there is also one of actor that is like the that can control the rain that she is doing in the Mandalika. So our process to produce the illustrations is separated into the 5 parts. The first one is ideation. So all information from the coalitions, for example, or maybe from the desktop research from our researcher, we try to gain more insight also from the regulation by the government. So the ideation process is morely take the inspirations idea, so it can be produced into the illustrative content, but it also can have a valuable information and also data that want to be shared. So after the ideations, we create the editorial plan. So in the editorial plan, we determining the topic and also the key message of the content. So this editorial plan and will be developed into the content brief for our illustrator. So the content brief will be like the descriptive things that need to be sketched by the illustrator. So after the illustrator understand about the content brief, they sketch the pictures and also the coloring, and after that we have the copywriting, especially for the captions on the Instagram itself. So the next one, I will share some example of our illustration. So our illustrations is based on several topics. For example, the first one is we make illustration to the special or to the national celebrations that happen in Indonesia. And then we also make the illustration to give an education for people. For example, we have 4 content that in your screen right now. The first one in the left, in the top left, we're trying to give information to them about the 2 pictures of the peatland. So the green one is a peat. We define as the peat actor, peat carton. There are 2 different conditions. In the left one, the peat man is really happy to live in the sustained conditions. So we have an analogy of the peatman. It seems like the sponge. So he hold the sponge really happy. And in the left one, we describing about the conditions, the degradation conditions on peatland, and then the peatman is really upset, and then even the peatman is become the hydrophobic. So the ideas of this content, we try to promote the special characteristic of the peatland that can become the hydrophobia while the ecosystem is being degraded. So we try to show by the two different conditions. And in the top left, in the top right, sorry, we describing about the conditions of the peatland ecosystem is similar to the sponge. So it can store a lot of carbon. When it's sustained, it can give the benefit for the ecosystem, or for the community, or for the flora and fauna living within the peatland. And then in the top, in the bottom left, we try to describing that peatland is store a lot of carbon. So we make the illustrations like the carbon blanket, so we can find a huge amount of carbon underneath the soil on peatland. And in the bottom right, we try to digest the information from the research. So there is one of the research that say that the water from peatland can be used by the community for their daily activity, but not for the consumption. So we describing the research result by the filtration process on peatland, so the water can be used for the community itself. And this is all about the educations. And then we also try to use our illustrative content to give a critic, give the sarcasm critic for the stakeholder or for the government. So we try to make like the content that is the stakeholder or the related actor that always burn the land, burn the peatland, that's always increasing every year. And in the middle, we try to discuss, we try to show the issues that is currently happening in Indonesia about the data transparency. Dilarang kepo means that you are not allowed to know more about what is really happens about the things or the important thing, especially about the food estate issues. And in the in the right, it is about the new regulations that is implemented in Indonesia. Omnibus law is like the regulations that overlapping with the environmental regulations. So we describe it by this regulation is sweeping the existing regulations, this new regulation, sorry. So, and then we also try to follow the momentum. So we also try to choose our illustrative content based on the movie momentum that is currently happening. For example, it's about in 2021, there is a happening about the Spider-Man. We try to make, we change the Spider-Man to the orangutan, but the orangutan no way home means that the habitat for orangutan right now has been disappeared because the extractive activity by the industrial or by the related stakeholder for plantation, for example. And we also try to use the inspiration from the cartoon Attack on Titan to give the warning on the fire. And we also inspired by the money haze to give a content about the gambut haze, which is there is a special guest again that want to destroy the pit and itself. And yeah, we always continue. We always follow to the latest movie or latest content that has been that is currently viral. And because of all this illustrative content that is spotting about the issues and also following about the current momentum, our followers in Instagram is mostly youth or a young professional or a young people. It is come from the range of 18 into 24, and most of them are 25 until 34. And our engagement also, the people or the young people between 25 and 34. Another activity that Pantau Gambut is currently doing, we try to empower youth power. So in previous slide, you see that Pantau Gambut is trying to giving information to give an illustrative content, but Pantau Gambut also try to empower the youth role so they can really contribute to our activity. So we have two pilot projects in Jambi and Central Kalimantan. Jambi is one of the province in Sumatra. So we try to empower youth that live in vulnerable fire area to be a peatland campaigner. So the simple things they can do is, sorry, the video is not working. So I think I need to change it. So do you see my screen right now?
We see the screen, but nothing is moving at the moment, Akhil.
Okay, I think I have a problem with the media. So, okay, I will continue. Wait. So the ideas of the youth empower from Pantau Gambut, we try to we try to give them insight how they can contribute to us by by using their social media, their Instagram. So this video should be played like there is like the report by the youth in every vulnerable fire area. So they give their photo, videos, and they tag us in the Instagram. So and we also have like the WhatsApp community from the Mata Tapak project or Eyes on Site. So the community will share their information if there is a fire spot or even the fire that is really that is still occurring in their area, in their village, for example. So this is like the activity that we want to amplify into the next province in that Pantau is currently influencing. So I think this is the great idea for you as the youth, because you can use just easily your mobile phone, for example, if you found any interesting, it's not always about the fire. Even if you found something unique about the youth, for example, like the flora, the flower, the plantations, you just can simply tag us in Instagram or maybe another organization that is currently focusing on peatland. It is part of your role as the youth to spread the awareness also. It is part of your real contributions about the peat awareness and also haze mitigations. So I encourage you as the youth to be the next our campaigner. So I hope after these presentations, if you are living on peatland, or if you are still traveling on peatland, or you are have a research on peatland, just capture the video or photo and tag us into our Instagram Pantau Gambut or People for Peat, and our Facebook People for Peat or Pantau Gambut, with the hashtag My Precious Peatland. Peatland is not wasteland, or People for Peat. It is part of your contribution to spread the awareness, because your real-time information, your real informations in the field is really useful. It's really meaningful for another of our follower, for example, or another of our friends that really want to know how is the real conditions of peatland itself. Yeah, I think that's enough. Thank you. So maybe after this we can have like the discussions, not the question and answer, but it's more like discussions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Agil. You shared so many cool examples. I know me, and I know a lot of my colleagues as well who work in the peatland space, especially in social media, are super inspired by what you guys do. You know, there's such a lot of thought and thought process goes into creating something as simple as that one image, right? Or for example, you had the idea of, like, you know, the sponge image for peatland. I think is very common. And you know, we've used it as well, and in a lot of information they liken it to a sponge, but I haven't had anyone liken peatland to like a blanket, and to like peek under the blanket and to have carbon. I think that's so clever. We're definitely going to use that next time when we do our own engagements. So thank you for sharing all of that. And to our audience, I know there's a couple of questions already in the chat box, but again, we want to make this super interactive. So, you know, if you have any questions or comments about the presentation, or how it made you think about what the work that you are doing as well in your own spaces, please just raise your hand and feel free to speak up in the microphone and turn on your video. That would be great. So yeah, I'll give people some time to like raise their hands, and even if you're from People for Peat, no problem, you know, let's all just have a discussion. But there's a couple of questions already, I think, in the chat box, but if people, I might call people out and get them to ask themselves. So maybe, there we go. Irene Choi, would you like to ask your question? And feel free to turn on your camera as well.
Hi, Agiel. I loved your presentation. So I'm on the comms team for PFP, and I always have this question when I'm trying to create engaging social media content. Then I wonder if, is the visual more important? Then what about the caption? So like, what would your feedback about that be? Is the visual more important? Is the caption more important? Or are they equally important?
I think both of them are important or equally important. There's like the strategy that Pantau Gambut that always do for the between the visual and the captions. So we always try to like semantic pictures, like all the informations we try to be produced on the attractive visual. But for more detailed content, we describe it on our caption. So both of them is really important, because sometimes if we only produce, because there are a lot of Instagram account that using illustrative content for promoting the environment or sustainability. There are a lot of organizations also using that, but sometimes they don't also consider how important the caption is. So the caption is the place for you for telling the audience how is the meaning of the pictures, or maybe another further discussion or another further information that would like to explain that cannot be visualized in the picture. So I think both of them is quite important, are quite important.
Thank you again.
So clear. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. Next up we have Sindhu.
Hi, Agil. This is
Hello.
Sindhu. I'm from PFP's comms team. We really love Pantau Gambut, and we look at it as an inspiration almost every day. I'd like to know, how long does the whole design or creative process take from the brainstorming until your final artwork?
Okay. Wow, this is really interesting questions, because to produce one content, to be honest, it takes a long time. I mean, but we manage it by our editorial plan that I explained before in my presentation. So for one, if you ask about the durations for one post, it takes almost a month for producing that content, or even more. But we have like the timeline in our editorial plan. So we have like the preparation phase before reaching the month or the day or the special day, for example. So we prepare it based on the timeline on the editorial plan. So yeah, because it's not really easy to produce one comprehensive informations that is visualized into the one picture. So we need to do like the research itself. We need to verify the data and information is really valid or not. And then also we try, because we always try to write all the sources into our captions. So we try to find also the information that is really reliable. So from the media tracking, for example, we try to take the informations from the media tier 1. So I think because of they are part of the media tier 1, their information is reliable and can be responsible.
That's awesome, Agil.
Thank you, Gil.
Follow-up question to that, because I didn't expect that one piece of content takes 1 month to create, but it goes to show, right? It looks like beautifully like simple and nice, but all the work and thought that goes into it and research. I was curious, like how many people are on your creative team?
So because we are we've been talking about the Peatland. Pantau Gambut has been running since 2016, 2017, I guess. But currently we are the small team. We are part of the new NGOs. So our team is quite small. We only have like, for the social media, there is only one. There's only one social media consultant, and then manager, and also the researcher. And we also have the freelance illustrator. For the freelance is about the 10 illustrator. But for the main persons that's responsible for the social media and for the research, we only have like about 4 or 5 people.
Nice. That's like similar to our team, maybe a bit more, but very cool, very interesting to know. Okay, I know we have another question from the other Mariam in the room, Mariam Kadir. So Mariam, would you like to speak?
Yeah, hi Agil.
Hello.
Your content are very interesting, and it's most of them are backed with scientific facts, and also what do you call that, like research based kind of post. Do you have like a designated team who actually read journal articles or do research on that and then convert it into more layman or even public friendly kind of post? That's all my question. Thanks.
Okay. So for the ideal one, for the team, I think for producing any kind of the illustrative content like an Instagram, it needs like there is a special social media researcher, and a part of them there's also the researcher that are reading the journal or the scientific paper, and there's also the communications team that make the words can be easy to be understood for layman, for example. But currently in Pantau Gambut, we are only just two of them. I mean, we are only have the social media researcher, the social media consultant, that she is gathering the idea for the ideation that I mentioned in the presentation. So she gathers the data, the news, or the information, or even the journal. And after she feels that she confident to make that information to be the content, to be the illustrative one, and then she consult to our research department. Is it really true, the content? Is it okay to be visual into this one? How about the color that will be visualized? And then how about the dip of the peatland, for example? And then how about the vegetations? All the scientists information that want to produce, we also need to verify into the reliable sources. That's why the social media team needs to consult with our research department. And yeah, we only have two of the team because we are currently don't have any a communications team. So for the copywriting, we are currently it is conducted by collaborations by the research department, also the social media department. But for ideally, I think it is also need to have like the role of the communications team for make the caption more digestible or easy to be understood.
Absolutely, that's a very, very key thing
Yeah.
that we ourselves, always have difficulty with.
Yeah.
And it's so important because you need to distill, especially scientific or research
Yeah.
information, into something
Yeah.
that's understandable, especially in social media. You just want to glance at it
Yeah.
and understand it, right?
Yeah, again, I think if we have more teams, I think the process for producing one content can be shorter than a month. I think because currently we are everyone can contribute everything, so that's why it takes
Yeah, because
more.
everyone has other jobs to do as well, right?
Yeah.
Great. So we have a question from Hanley, and she says, "Hello, Agil. Thanks for your presentation. My question is not really related to youth, but peatlands in your country. Who is the main actor for peatland management there? Because in Vietnam, the land use rights belong to the people, but landowners belong to the government. So sometimes it creates conflict in resource use and management. So people have land rights, but maybe land ownership is with the government. So
Yeah.
who is the main actor for peat management in Indonesia?"
Yeah, so for the actors, we have the stakeholder, we call it peatland stakeholders. So it consists of the government from the national government or the central or the district government that has the area that they manage the land itself, and also the government gives the permit for the private company, we call it concession holder, so they can manage the peatland itself for their industrial activity, for example, for oil pump, not oil pump, but for acacia plantation or any kind of forest plantations. And then we also have like the independence land that can be owned by the community. And mostly the conflict comes from because there is no clear border of the land itself. So the conflict sometimes come from there is, for example, there is one land, one ecosystem of peatland, and the community has conducted their activity for a long time, for more than a year or more than 10 years. But after that, because there is like the more powerful government that has the right or have the proof that that land is owned by the government, and then the government give the permit to the concession holder or the private company, and then the private company claim that the land is owned by them, and because of that there is like a conflict between of them. I think most of this conflict come from because we don't have a reliable one map data which is can be used by the any kind of the private sector or the government itself. So all the data I think is only like the predictions one, because you know that the total area of Peatland in Indonesia is really huge. It's really important to be verified in the field which one is where is the border, where is the exact one. The only data I think that is currently using is the data from the satellite from the spatial analysis. So that's why sometimes if the new permits come from the government for the private sector, and when the private sector want to implement their industrial activity, for example, they sometimes face the conflict with the community that has been living over there for more than 10 years or for a long time ago.
Right, and Hans says land use planning is also a very common issue in Vietnam, as it is in Malaysia as well. So that is unfortunately a reality for a lot of people. So I wonder if there's any more questions. If there are, please again feel free to put it in the chat box. But speaking of government, earlier as you were presenting, Agil, especially in your presentation about the critiques to the government, I had a question of, do you ever get in trouble? Like there's Pantau Gambut. Like how does the government feel about Pantau Gambut and your critiques of the government?
Well, for our content in Instagram, we never have like the private DM from the government, but we have like the engagement from the influencer. So they contact us to our Instagram, for example. They try to offer what's the real contribution that I can do as the influencer or celebrity for promoting how important Peatland it is. We only we ever get like the
positive interactions.
positive response from the influencer. But for the government, I don't know, because they think they never seen they never interest in any kind of cartoon or illustration content. Maybe they don't ever realize that we are trying to critique them. I don't know, but we never get like the bad response from the government from our illustrative content. But from our publications, for example, from our investigations activity in the field, from our research publication that has been done by Pantau, for example, in the concession holder, we try to verify whether the company or the private sector is really implementing their mandate of the restorations. And then we publicly publish that information. We get a response from the regional government and then also from the private sector itself. The only response is after we do the disseminations or publishing our publications, I think. But for social media, I think we never get any response.
Good, you so far can fly under the radar for now. That's good. But it's also really cool to hear that you get responses from like influencers on how they can help. I think that's wonderful, and that really shows that your content has impact, and that's really cool. So we have a comment from Bambang Siddhartha, and they say usually the palm plantations also have concession in peatlands, even in the bog or peat swamp. Actually, there is a conservation in area which has thick peat, but sometimes there's no straight rule for that. Even people can have their own land in peatlands area. That's what I know in Sumatra, especially in Riau. So Bambang, does it sound like you are currently in Sumatra and in Riau? Perhaps any comment to that, Agil?
Yeah, actually, our finding from our research also found that our latest information, our latest investigations from the concession area, we found also there is no effort of the restorations for the conservation activity. Even we have already analyzed that area is classified as protected peatland area, but that area is still utilized for the industrial activity. For example, if you see in my presentation, there are any activity for land clearing. That land clearing activity is happen in the protected peatland function or peatland area, which it should be restored, which it should be conserved without any influence to disturb or to degrade that area. So I don't know if because I think the biggest challenge that ever in Indonesian's peatland, in my opinion, is currently people or the government, to be specific, is trying to protect the peatland, is trying to produce the regulations about the peatland protection and management. But unfortunately, what is currently happening in the field, all the activity has been done before the initiative come from the government. So I think it's really hard for the government to force them to stop their activity, because they have got that permission, their permit by previous government or another related government. So I think the problem is because it has already done, it has already given the permit by the previous government, and also there is no like the collaborations between the government that talking about peatlands, because for Indonesian peatland it is not only supervised by one institutions of government, but it's managed by several ministry that has a concern to peatland itself. So,
yeah, that's quite similar in Malaysia, where you have the water ministry, you've got the forestry ministry and the environmental ministry all trying to work together, but at the same time it makes it very complex to work in that kind of ecosystem and to do conservation in that kind of ecosystem. But thank you, Bambang, also for sharing. So Bambang says that they're born and raised in Riau, but now in Bandung in the Geological Agency of Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. So that's very cool. So thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for your comment. That's very interesting. So I know from the poll that we did earlier, I know where all our participants are roughly from. So we've got people from Malaysia, people from Philippines, as well as Myanmar. So do raise your hand or write in the chat box about what the situation is like in your country, whether you have had challenges engaging with youth or anything like that. We really welcome, again, that discussion. So one of the things that you called out for just now, Agil, was about turning youth into activists by getting them to literally pantau gambut, right, which means to watch the peat and use social media to take videos or photos to again highlight what's happening in their region, because then you ultimately have eyes and ears on the ground in all of Indonesia. And like you said, Indonesia is such a large country with such a large amount of peat, the largest in all of Southeast Asia. So that's really important to have those eyes and ears on the ground. But I was curious just to get some numbers or some metrics from you of how many youth actually do join that movement.
Well, I forget the real number of youth in every province, but it's more than 20, I guess. It's about like 18, I think 18 to 25 in each country, in each province. But I want to highlight the important things about these eyes on peat itself, because the ideas they just don't only contribute to be a youth campaigner on peatland, but they also contribute to us as Pantau Gambut to supply information in the field. For example, because of the information from our youth campaigner in Jambi, for example, in one province, we also can get like the real-time information that there is still the new fires that occurs in the area, and because of that basic information from the Jambi, we then try to find out where is the village, where is the locations, and we use that for our next campaign material or for our publication. So I think that's why I said that it is really important as youth. This is the easiest way that youth can contribute to us, is by using the technology, by using the social media. You just don't spread the awareness to another followers of Pantau Gambut or followers of people of Peat, for example, but you can also give a reliable data on field for another investigation or another analysis or research. So that's why just never think that youth has no power. Just never think that you are not the expert, you are not the students of environmental studies, because every simple things can also have a meaning for another one.
Absolutely. Thank you for highlighting that of like turning, what people always think as like, oh, social media, whatever, but like turning that into real impact on the ground and for conservation. And also to think about other, youth movements that have happened throughout history, not just in recent times thanks to social media, but even before that, there was, Arab Spring and things like that, where it was all, youth led. So just to think of, in terms of peatland conservation, what youth can really contribute. So that's very cool.
Yeah, because sometimes youth is only described as like the cheerleader, or only described as the decorations for any kind of activity. They always involved in any kind of environmental meeting for like the observer, but they have no power, but they have no things to do during the event or the meeting. So I think just the simple thing, you don't need to go to the conference, you don't need to go to the meeting, just using your mobile phone or technology to contribute to protect the environment.
Yeah, and as well, when you look at the age range of who is engaging most with Pantau Gambut, especially in the 15 to 24, at least half of those people are not eligible to vote, for example, not yet, right? So this is the way that they can kind of like vote with social media. So that's quite cool. So related to that, other Mariam Kadir, or MK, has a question. Do you think other ASEAN countries with peatlands can apply a similar system like Pantau Gambut?
Of course, yeah, absolutely, yes, because it is the simple concept. I think that can be replicated to another country, especially in the Asian country that has a peatland ecosystem. Because there is no special technique, there is no special concept that need to be replicated into another countries. I think you just maybe, for example, if the PFP or another project or another activity have a focus on peatland, just engage youth that give information about it, how important it's about the youth role in protecting the environment and protecting the peatland, for example. And then just give them the workshop, and then they can give a feedback to us, or give like the information to us from after the workshop example. But I think the most important thing that should be highlighted is the consistent the commitment. I mean the commitment from the project, or the commitment from the organization to really engage the youth. So it needs to maintain the communication in every youth, so they still can active contribute to sharing the ideas. Because sometimes after we are doing the workshop, or after finishing the project or activity, we just leave them because we just finish all our responsibility and we just leave them. No, because we need to maintain the communication with them, because this is part of our commitment, right, to empower them to be the youth campaigner. So I think the most important thing that should be highlighted is the commitment by the organization, or the one that want to empower the youth to always have to monitor the progress, or to supervise, for example, or to just maintain the communications for all of the youth that is gathered, I think.
Right. So to keep them constantly engaged, right? After, delivering that kind of information, don't just drop off the face of the earth because your deliverables, exactly, because your deliverables are done. Yeah, I understand that. That's really important. And that's cool. Like Pantau Gambut has been around for quite a while now, and you've managed to continuously do that and seek those engagements. So one question I also had, this is just my personal curiosity, is what has been like your most successful campaign at Pantau Gambut, and then your least like successful, just out of curiosity, like which do you see in terms of like the engagements or the impact that has happened? And then one that you're like, oh, we thought this would be great, but it was kind of a flop in the end. So it's good to hear, the successes and the fails, so that we also know what to do.
So for the success story is one of them I mentioned before. We have got like the response for the influencer in Instagram, and also in Twitter. We got like the response from one of the singer, the old singer that have been famous for a long time. And then after that, all of his fans also mentioning us and also following our Twitter account. And this is same like in Instagram. We our posting, our post has been reposted by one of the celebrity or influencer in Indonesia, and after that we got a lot of the followers from her fans, for example. I think that's one of the success story from our social media. And for the success story for our activity in the field, I think we can give any recommendation, not recommendation actually, but we can give supporting information to the regional government, because when we do like the investigation activity in Riau province, the regional government, the forestry agency in Riau said that they are really helped by our activity by monitoring all the peatland area in Riau province, and they will use our investigation or our monitoring report for their material for their further their follow-up activity after this. And also in our activity in Papua, we also indicate the breaches by the concession holder, by the one of the oil palm plantations, and then we show the analysis from the spatial analysis, and also we show the pictures that show which is the violence or the breaches by the companies. And then after that, the regional agency in Papua combine our information, our findings, and also their analysis, which is bring those information into the national government. So the national government need to revoke the permit for the concession holder. And then for out of our expectation activity, I think the one of the biggest, I think, is for our monitoring activity. But I think especially we're trying to monitor in the field whether the commitment of the government is really implemented or not, the commitment, the restoration commitment is really implemented or not. But we don't have any feedback from them, which is like, you have done a lot of activity for several months, you have investigated in the field in every province, but there is no feedback. That's one of our less expectation, I think.
Awesome. That's so cool to hear that, you know, your social media actions or the social media actions of youth as well as Pantau Gambut translates directly into policy. I think that's such a cool it's such a cool time to be living in that sense of being able to make social change happen from what seemed like a small movement, but it has multiplying effects. So Bambang also agrees, of course, great actions start from small actions, and he admires the movement. Thank you, Bambang. Thank you for that feedback. So another question comes in from Han, which is, do you have any plan or vision to connect with other international youths, for example, to offer internships for international undergraduate students, or how does Pantau Gambut see interacting with other peatland kind of youth organizations or youth themselves from other countries?
Okay, thank you. But currently we are only doing the support for the students from the university that in Indonesia, but we have we currently don't have any plan for another support for international students, for example. But we in terms of support, we currently have a lot of collaborations with international students for supporting their research. For example, we have the intensive discussions with the students from the US, from the Cornell University, or from the students that doing PhD. I forget the name of the university, sorry. But the point is, we also support them by providing the reliable data and analysis, or maybe they just won't get like the insight what is really happened about Indonesian peatland, because they have like the research on Indonesian peatland. So we do like the collaborations with them, with the international students that have a focus on peatland. But for like the really real support, we also, Pantau Gambut has a program like the fellowship program. So we support we support Indonesians undergraduate students to their research, especially in Peatland. So the ideas is we want to produce more researcher. We want to produce more research that is really focused on the peatland issues. So because like there is only a limited sources of peatland research, we need to we Pantau Gambut want to get more new findings about what happened in the peatland ecosystem, for example, in their province or in their research project. So we also have the fellowship program every year to support the research by the undergraduate students.
That's awesome. That's really good to know. I had no idea. So Han, there you go. If you know any undergraduate students, mostly obviously in Indonesia, but that's still really great to hear. So I think so far there are no other questions. So I think for us to kind of wrap this up a little bit, I'm going to ask you, Agil, if you have any sort of take-home exercises or homework for our audience. If there's any, I'm that student in the class, like, teacher, is there any homework? Everyone's like, shush. But yeah, is there any take-home activities for our audience here today if they want to try their hand at youth engagement through social media? And then following that, if there's anything you would like to just share, like some last words.
Okay. I think I've mentioned in my presentations, I will share it again. Wait. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So like I mentioned before, youth can do the simple things. Just use your technology, just use your devices, for example, mobile phone or camera, to capture any kind of the unique or you think that it's really interesting to be known by another youth or by another people that is really concerned in you. You can tag the Instagram account to Pantau Gambut or People for Peat for your for your image or for your video, and then you can use the hashtag. So another one can get also what is the latest picture or videos that has already been taken. And then, as I mentioned before, if you think that this is what is it for? Is it the real contribution or not? Don't ever think like that, because, like I mentioned before, the simple things that you took, for example, in the village or in the peatland area, it's sometimes it's also the important information that sometimes another people want to know. And also, like I mentioned before, like if you, for example, if you take like the unique species in Vietnam or in another country or another peatland area, for example, just mention us, we can use them. We can use that information for our future campaign or for our future research. So by doing that, it means that you also contribute. You have been empowered to be the next generation that protect the peatland ecosystem. So I encourage you to use your mobile phone, use your camera to capture picture or videos. Capture everything about peatland, no need only focus on the fire or on the bridges or the files, just the unique things, the flora, faunas, or the people, even the product of the community, for example. Just mention us on Pantau Gambut and People for Peat. Mention us also on Facebook and in People for Peat and Pantau Gambut. And also use the hashtag My Precious Peatland. Peatland is not a wasteland, and also People for Peat.
Thank you, Agil. So audience, that's for you guys to take home with you and see what you can capture and what you can share. And again, never think that anything that you do is too small, because there's always multiplying effects. So thank you so much, Agil. Is there anything else you would like to share?
No.
No? Awesome. So thank you so much to Agil, our wonderful speaker from Pantau Gambut, for sharing your time, your experience, and answering all of these different questions. I mean, we had a pretty long discussion section actually, because typically we have multiple speakers. So, but we had like a full 30 minutes of discussion. And I think it was really a really interesting discussion amongst our audience and among you and our team as well. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to everyone attending for your questions. So if we could just share the People for Peat screen, we got a couple other things to mention. Awesome. So again, thank you so much to our speaker, Agil, for agreeing to be on this, workshop today, and for sharing everything that you have shared with us. We are definitely very inspired by everything that we heard, and for us anyway, for our communications and awareness team at People for Peat, there's a lot of take homes. I know our comms team is like furiously taking notes, as am I, in my notebook. So thank you. And so for our next and last symposium, so it's like a bittersweet moment because this is our last workshop of the year. And following this workshop, we will have our last symposium of the year, and that's going to be on the 17th of August, so about a month from now. And this last symposium is going to be a really interesting one as well. It's going to be about culture and sustenance. So I know it's quite a vague term, but ultimately we're going to be focusing on the culture around peatlands, and because it's such a rich ecosystem that not only supports ecology but also supports people and societies for long before technology has come around. So that will be very interesting, and also the idea of sustenance on peatlands. So this will be a really interesting one, and I really hope to see all of our participants there. So thank you so much. And as always, because we love feedback, we would always encourage you to fill in our post-event survey, and that is where you'll get your e-certificate of participation. And so please do that. The link is currently in the chat box, and Irene has so kindly put the links for the next symposium on August 17th, as well as the questionnaire. So take your time to just click on those links and give us your feedback, as well as sign up for our next workshop so you can see us one last time before the year ends. Okay, and so as far as closing remarks go, I think we've had an excellent discussion today. I learned a lot, and it was just really cool to have this chat and keep things like casual. I hope it was casual for you too. I guess it's not too much pressure, right? It's just a bunch of us chatting about what we can do to engage with youth about peatlands and how to utilize a digital space and how to use social media to actually create change. And I think that's a really pertinent and important topic for all of us, for our teams as well as the public. So I've learned a lot. And again, thank you all so much for attending and for sticking around this whole time and supporting our events. So as always, do follow us on social media at People for Peat, and that's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as LinkedIn. And of course, please follow Pantau Gambut as well. You won't regret it. Their content, as you can see, is amazing. And so you'll have a great time with it. So again, thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Agil. Thank you, Keith, Oris, Ikmal, Han, Bambang. Who else is there? Yinmo. All of you have been great. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.